Hey folks, welcome to today's video. Today I'm going to do another shelter combination with plastic. So basically a modified super shelter. The super shelter is just a term that folks like to throw out there for a shelter using primarily plastic. It's been around for quite a while. Moores teaches it quite a bit and a lot of people teach it, but it's a good sound shelter system. If you can just carry a little bit of plastic with you, it can really increase the amount of heat that you can store in your shelter. Even just having a fully enclosed shelter, that doesn't mean like airtight. I'm just saying four walls, basically no air penetration, will increase the temperature of your shelter dramatically. Depending on some factors and stuff, as much as 15 degrees or more. A lot of folks, when they go snowshoeing and stuff like that, they take a modern tent, they'll actually take a candle with them, like a candle lantern or whatever, and even that, just that little candle flame will heat the inside of their tent and make it at least a few degrees warmer than outside. Like I said, probably 10 to 15, depending on a lot of different factors, but just in general, with just an enclosed shelter, and then that candle can increase it as well. Anyway, I have got a 5x7 emergency space blanket, reusable. I'm going to go ahead and set it up on a ridgeline, and then I've got a different type of plastic that I want to use for this one. Okay, so here I had to improvise a little bit. I put a little sapling, or above a sapling size, whatever, log across the back, tied my corners to it, and then anchored my corners off to trees that are on close to the corners. I can't drive stakes in right now. The ground's too frozen. I tried. It's not going to work. So I got this going here. Now all I have to do is bank the back with snow. The last video I did, I set up a couple of different frameworks. One was just a regular ridgeline setup, and the other one was a structure made out of just little saplings. But I used the same plastic in both demonstrations. That plastic, I believe, was about 3 mil. It was a little milkier than in color than I would have liked. The clearer the plastic, the better this is going to work for you. And also, to some degree, the thinner the plastic. There's a fine line there where you don't want to go too thin, and of course there again you don't want to go too thick, because then you're defeating the purpose. You're blocking out too much of the heat. I will say that basically every time I've done this, I've burnt a hole in the plastic of my shelter. You got to have your fire pretty close, and it depends on the type of wood that you're using. The type of wood that I have on my property pops a lot. It's not quite as bad as cedar, but it pops, and it's going to pop flying embers. And it's just one of those things that you just have to do fire maintenance. Try to distance your fire far enough away from your shelter and yet close enough. There's a little monkeying around there if you've ever gone out and tried this. But anyway, so what I've got here today though is a construction type plastic, and it's got some markings on it. I just asked a guy to cut a section off, and I see he's got a staple and it's already ripped. There's a staple in it right here. I'll get rid of that. But anyway, it feels a little bit heavier than, well, about the same as that 3 mil, I guess. But it's got these reinforcing fiber mesh inside of it. And what we do on construction sites is, new construction before the walls go up, is you can enclose entire buildings with this poly and heat the structure from the inside. And one cool thing about this is what they'll do is, in order to make a seam, they'll bunch some of this up and bunch it up on the other side and take a nail and just weave it in and out like a toggle, and it holds there. It actually holds pretty good even in some decent wind. So I just wanted to give this a try. It's going to be more durable than that other plastic. I'm going to be able to use toggles better than I would have, but and then the white little lines in there will deflect some of the heat, but I think it'll still work just fine. All I did is put a toggle, slit the plastic, put this toggle, the same toggle that's holding my space blanket, onto my ridge pole, on my ridge line. Same exact one. I put some sticks on the inside so that when I get in there I can billow out the sides. This one I did a little bit different. All I did is put the toggle in, but then I put a little piece of bank line on there to tie it on. And you can see this is my door support. And I did the same thing that way. Just tied some cordage to the plastic, slit the plastic, and tied some cordage around that pole right there. So this will be my entrance that I use. The back's got snow on it already. I've got the shelter made. I want to go ahead and try and put some debris inside on the floor. I'm not sure what size piece of plastic this is. I asked a guy at work, can I have a little bit of that plastic, and he went ahead and cut it off. I think it's more like 12 by 10 something. It's huge. I've got plenty of room on the inside for floor coverage, for a moisture barrier. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to gather a bunch of twigs. I don't want to go collect a bunch of swamp grass. I've done it. It's a pain in the butt. So why go do it? I'm going to just put some twigs in there and call that good. I'm going to give myself a little elevated platform. I'm not really going to make a raised bed. I don't think anyway. I think I'm just going to line a bunch of twigs in there and call it good. One thing I want to say about this super shelter and just things in general, I think folks get too worked up on the proper way to do things. There are some folks that have done things and have made innovations in what we do here, survival, bushcraft, whatever you want to call it. And they've made great contributions, and they're the masters, and that's totally fine. But it's okay to experiment on your own and to realize that your method does not have to match exactly the person who's doing it. The person that you saw, who's the perceived master, that person has a specific area that he's working in, or the people. There are people that live down south that do all-night fires different than I do them up here. There's people that further north than me that would look at a shelter like that and go, well, if it's 60 below, pal, you're going to need a raging fire to survive in there. It doesn't get 60 below at my house. It gets at the most 20, 30 below. Sometimes, once in a great while, almost 40 below, but very rarely. And I don't have, just like folks down south, I don't have the hardcore rain or something like that in this particular time of year. I don't have to worry about the rain right now. All I'm doing is worrying about the cold and the snow. So I just kind of want to throw that out there, that just because you do something that's not exact textbook or something, that's okay. Get out and try it. If it works, it works. Who cares? This isn't that complicated. It's a flipping greenhouse. That's all you're making is a greenhouse. Have you ever been in a greenhouse? It's the same principle. Seal it off and use plastic. Use something that the radiant heat can go through and trap that heat inside. So there you go. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and like I said, find something for the inside. I'm not sure if I'm going to make a raised bed. We'll see. At the very least, I'm going to put some twigs down. And then I'm going to gather a bunch of wood for a long fire. So there's my mattress. Inside of my shelter. Alright, well I got the shelter done. I got my bed done. I would feel way more comfortable if I had twice as much debris in there. I cheated, and I went down the road a while back and harvested some cattails with my four-wheeler. So that's what's in there. So there again, I cheated. I didn't use just what was on my land. If I had to use what was on my land, I'd have to be kicking snow and harvesting swamp grass. I just didn't really feel like doing that. I have a stash of it here on a natural shelter I was making. I just took down one whole side, and that was the debris for my debris mattress. What I did is I took 2 logs and then tied some twine between the 2 logs, approximately 3 feet wide, maybe a little bit longer. And I tied them together, the length like this, and put some cordage between them in 3 spots, top and bottom and middle. That's all I did with this, just real simple. And all that does is give me a little bit of a framework, give me a little bit of a platform to build on. I then laid more logs, not really saplings, but logs, smaller ones, maybe 2 inches at most in diameter, and laid them along with the main direction of my bed. And then I piled the cattail, and then I took some branches, some little tiny twigs from the trees that I harvested, laid those down, and then I put the debris on top of that. So it's not a true awesome raised bed, but that's okay. This isn't a shelter that you need to spend, 6 hours on or something. This is just throw it up and figure out what time you have. Try to get as much debris in there as you possibly can, and then start working on your long fire. Well, I've got my fire laid. I've got my wood collected for the night. I'm hoping that'll be enough wood. I would like more, probably like about a third more, but whatever. I think this will last the night. Not all of it's really that great. It's birch when it dies standing up. it tends to rot, and then the lower part can even be wet, even if the top is all rotten. So some of it's birch, and then the popple, that'll burn even when wet. It'll be a smoky fire, but I'll be inside my shelter. It shouldn't bother me too much. No wind going right now, and if there is wind, it should be coming at a crossways to me, the way I'm situated right now. So, I had someone ask me a while back on one of my other videos, why don't I light my fire right now? Well, if you spent as much time as I did gathering this wood and collecting it, you wouldn't light your fire either unless you really needed it. I don't need to cook right now. I'm toasty warm. I had to shed like 2 layers already. It was 10 below when I woke up this morning, and now it's like 25 or something. So I mean, it's super warm. I don't need a fire. I don't need to boil water right now. I don't need to cook. I don't need to do any of that stuff. I'm just going to sit here and look at these sticks and wait till night falls before I turn them on, or before I turn it on, before I light the fire. So purely to conserve resources is the only reason I didn't start my fire earlier. Otherwise, yeah, sure, I'd love to have a fire all day long. It's just, you know, a lot of work. So what I'm doing right now is I'm simulating the correct amount of debris under me I put a wool blanket underneath there. And if this was a real world situation, I would just need to gather a whole lot more twigs and probably bite the bullet and get some grass. If I couldn't get the grass, then just twigs. I've done that before too. I've made a mattress out of just twigs, and if you do it right, it's certainly not as comfortable as, you know, a cattail mattress or something like that, but it'll definitely get you through the night. So I simulated a little bit more extra debris with a wool blanket, and I'm actually testing a product that I got when I came back from the island. It's a Wiggy's overbag for my 20 below bag. I believe that this outer bag then rates my Wiggy's down to a 40 below bag, but I don't know, it's a lighter weight, summerish type of bag, and I want to test that out. And I can kill 2 birds with 1 stone by testing this shelter out as well, or doing this video on this shelter. So that bag should be able to handle the temperatures that I can create in that shelter, no problem. So anyway, just thought I'd share that with you. Alright guys, I'll get back with you when it's time to light the fire. Well, it's starting to get a little bit dark now, and my camera doesn't have infrared, so I thought I'd do a last update or whatever before I light the fire. It's about 5 o'clock now, a little bit after 5. If you think about it, if I light the fire at 6 o'clock, that fire has to burn for 12 hours till 6 a.m., right? Well, the sun certainly doesn't get up at 6 a.m., but that's a reasonable amount of time. So the more that I could push that off, obviously the better for me, because I don't think I have enough wood to last 12 hours. I've probably got enough wood to last 8 hours or so, depending on how it burns and different things, how I manage the fire, how hot I need it, things like that. But anyway, I just thought I'd take a second and show you guys something. There's a gentleman on Facebook that I'm friends with, and he's actually a fellow instructor at the Pathfinder School. His name is Sean Kelly, and I have commented a couple of times on Facebook posts of his and him on the same thing with him on mine. And we come back to, it's kind of a goofy thing or whatever, but we come back to OCD. You have to be OCD about this stuff. Let me explain to you a little bit about what I've got going on here. I know it looks like just a jumble of firewood. Well, it's not, and I'm not sure if you can see the firewood in the back. But anyway, I have a pretty good sized fire lay. I have intermixed this fire lay with dry wood and with not so dry wood, as actually even green wood. On the very bottom it's green wood, and then as the layers progressed up, I used better and better firewood, and to where actual, you know, good dried firewood. And then I've got my fire lay. Right over here I've got a bundle of sticks that are going to go on this fire lay as soon as it needs it. That's my immediate fuel right there. This amount of fuel should give me a pretty decent coal base. Over there on top of the firewood, I don't know if you can see it, but there's one piece that's a little bit decent sized, but everything else underneath that is more fuel, approximately this size, about an inch, inch and a half, depending. That is to continue my coal base, because I'm going to need a very good sized coal base to combat the ice that's on the ground, and to ignite this lesser quality fuel that are these big logs that I cut. these, it may look like a lot of firewood, and it is, but it's not the greatest firewood. When it gets that big, it's just not that good of stuff. The popple starts to rot. It's very moist. It needs to really dry out. So it's going to be a smoky fire, like I mentioned earlier. But anyway, I've got my fire lay. I've got the next fuel. I've got the fuel on top of that that is going to continue the coal base and keep it really cracking. And then I can start reaching for some of these lesser diameter, lesser pieces, whatever. They're still going to burn, but it's going to take them a while to dry out, so that I can intersperse those with my fire and start creating a better coal base and burning through some of that fuel. And then finally over here on the far left is a fairly small bundle of sticks, but I've got enough sticks there with smalls and then up to thumb size diameter sticks to where I could have a sustainable fire if for some reason this fire were to go out. That's my I wake up in the middle of the night and there's nothing left, or it's, you know, whatever, or in the morning, whatever, and I want a fire, and I want to at least be able to get that initial heat going, and then if I want, I can scrounge other firewood. Anyway, I just thought I'd share that. Okay, it's about 7:45, and I'm going to start my fire. Okay, well, I checked the temperature and it's about 16 degrees outside right now, 16 degrees Fahrenheit. So I'm going to set this thermometer up inside the shelter and see how warm we can get it in there. Alright, well, right now it's registering over 120 degrees in my shelter. I think I can kick the fire back just a little bit. Everything seems to be going real good in here. Super toasty warm. Yeah, it's maybe 15 degrees outside and 130 in my shelter. So it's going okay. Well, I went all out. Here she is. It's a raging fire. I've got a huge coal bed developing here. I've got 130 degrees in my shelter. I just need to taper off the coals, add wood very liberally, or not liberally, very gently now, and just maintain this coal bed and I'll be fine. It's going to be super toasty warm tonight. Alright guys, well, it's the next morning. It is about 45 or so inside my shelter. My coal base is dying down. I had to get up and add wood to it a couple times. This Wiggy's bag isn't the warmest. It's not even like a 20-degree bag or anything. I would say it's more like it's definitely a summer weight bag, which that's not what it's designed for. It's designed to be an outer bag for the 20 below bag, but that's fine. Excuse me. That's fine. That's good. The Super Shelter worked good. I had it, I think I said this before, but I had it anywhere from 120 on down to one time when I woke up, the coals were really out and it was about 20 inside my shelter. I'm going to guess it was about 10 outside or so, maybe in the teens. She really cooled off pretty quick. So, one other thing I will mention, just like I've said before, you definitely get holes in your stuff with this. That fire really kicking up. You add big logs, you know, it kind of disturbs the embers and stuff and flies them up. So I've got 3 or 4 holes in my space blanket and a couple in my plastic. So, alrighty, there we go. I think I'm going to catch a couple more minutes of sleep. Well, I had a pretty good night's sleep. Like I said, I had to add wood to the fire a couple times. I thought it was probably down around 15 or so, maybe 10. But I just checked the weather, just checked the temperature, and it's 3 right now. So with my shelter never going below 20, I think it worked out pretty good, even when the coals were down. I personally would not camp like this. I don't like camping with long fires. It's just, it's just too much work. It's too much work, and it's too much, you know, being careful with the fire and just a lot of fire maintenance. And I'd rather just be able to go to sleep in my sleep system and be good to go. But it's a good thing to know. It's a good survival type thing, I think. I think it's certainly nothing wrong with carrying a 10 by 10 piece of plastic along with your 5 by 7 space blanket. I think it's a pretty good idea if you're going to be out in the cold to definitely carry something like this, some sort of system like this. So alright guys, this is about it. What was I going to say? That's about it. Hope you like the video. Take care.